Department of ITB Bandung. This is our second webinar series, Road to the International Conference of Habitechno 5. We have conducted our first webinar series earlier this May with the title of Resilience by Design. And today's topic is the future of construction industry with 3 speakers from 3 different countries. We are going to have Dr. Robbie Sutanto from Loughborough University, Dr. Tong Kwan Chan from University of Melbourne, and Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani from Institute Technology Bandung. We still have 2 more webinar series to go for the next event. More speakers in the future from Indonesia and overseas, from diverse sectors, academic, government, and industry. We also want to remind everyone to join our main event, the International Conference of Habitechno 5 on November 11th. You can also submit your extended abstract by August 1st on the link provided in our website, habitechno.id. Please look forward to all our upcoming events. I hope you all enjoy today's webinar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ms. Irma, for your speech. Next, we invite Dr. Sri Mariati, the Dean from School of Architecture, Planning and Policy Development. Time is yours.
Distinguished Program Coordinator of Architecture Undergraduate Program, Dr. Arif Sarwowibowo, Distinguished Program Coordinator of Architecture Postgraduate Program, Ibu Dewi Larasati, PhD, Distinguished Representative of the Committee, Ibu Irma Handayani Lubis, Distinguished our invited speaker, Dr. Tong Kwan Chan, Dr. Robbie Sutanto, and Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani. Distinguished participants of the second series webinar, Road to the 5th Habitechno. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greeting from Bandung, Indonesia. Habitechno International Conference is a biennial conference managed by the Architecture Program at the School of Architecture, Planning and Policy Development, Institute Technology Bandung. Our webinar today is a part of the 5th Habitechno International Conference. The topic of our webinar today is the future construction industry, which is very important topic nowadays because it relates to many aspects such as pandemics, digitalization, and also resiliency. Thank you very much for our invited speakers, Dr. Robbie Sutanto, Dr. Tong Kwan Chan, and Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani, and also Ibu Dewi Larasati as a moderator today for your time to conduct this webinar. It is hoped that the webinar today could be a space, online space to enrich our knowledge and experience in construction industry. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Sri, for your speech. And that remarks the official opening of webinar series Road to Habitechno 5. We finally arrived to the main session. This session will be guided by Dr. Dewi Larasati. But before that, let me quickly introduce her. Okay. Dr. Dewi Larasati gained her bachelor and master degree from ITB and took her PhD in Kochi University of Technology, Japan. She has already gained so many professional licenses, such as Green Expert Associate, GBCI, Professional Architect by IAI, Procurement Expert License by Bappenas RI, and etc. Throughout the years, she has developed her expertise on green building, sustainable building and construction, project delivery system, building and construction management, and also BIM. So without further ado, Dr. Dewi Larasati, I'll hand this over to you.
Thank you, Fatina. Thank you for your very nice introduction for my CV. Thank you also for Ibu Sri Mariati for opening remark of this webinar series. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Pak Robbie. Good afternoon, Pak TK, and good evening. Good afternoon, everybody, panelists, and also committee in Indonesia, and also good evening, honorable panelists, Pak TK ya, in Melbourne, and also the distinguished attendees. Welcome back, and also thank you for joining this Habitechno 5th webinar series. Today's webinar is the second series. The first series of this webinar was held on May 1st, 2021, with the topic of resilience by design. Currently, today on this second webinar, we will discuss issues on appropriate technology for resilience and sustainable urban settlement related to the construction industry. First of all, I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Dewi Larasati. I am a member of Building Technology Research Group, School of Architecture, Planning and Policy Development, ITB. I will be the moderator of the second webinar, Road to 5th Habitechno. In this occasion, we have three outstanding panelists who will share their experiences in the research on of the future of construction industry, especially the future of construction sector in the industrial era 4.0, and also in the condition the drastic changes in world condition due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the panelists, we already know that informed by the master ceremony, we have two Dr. Robbies today. First, Dr. Robbie Stanto from Loughborough University, and the second, Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani from ITB. We also have Dr. TK Chan from Melbourne University. Each speaker will explain their presentation in 20 minutes. Then we will continue with discussion, question, and answer for approximately 20 minutes. During the presentation, attendees are welcome to ask questions via Q&A features as explained by Master Ceremony Fatina. I'm sure today's webinar will be very interesting since the panelists are experienced researchers and experts. We will start the presentation from the first speaker. The first speaker is Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani. Okay, I would like to introduce in detail Dr. Robbie Dwiko Giuliani. He is an assistant professor of School of Architecture, Planning and Policy Development, Institut Teknologi Bandung. He just finished his doctoral degree in quantity surveying from the University Technology of Malaysia. He got professional license on technical building auditor, professional architect by IMC as an Asian architect, register facilitator on Code of Ethic Training for Architect, Greenship Associate by GBCI, and also professional architect by Indonesia Architect Institute. His field of expertise are in the architectural management field, health, safety, environment, and also facility management. Pak Robbie Dwiko Giuliani will share to us information about how disease affect construction for saving lives. Pak Robbie, time and screen is yours, and I will give a sign if you have 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
please.
Thank you. Will you help me to share my presentation?
Of course, you can. Pak Dibya or Pak Adit, could you share by yourself or Pak Dibya, can you share the Pak Robbie presentation material?
Adit.
I gave it to Bu Irma.
Oh iya, Bu Irma aja, Bu Irma.
Yeah, wait.
Saya nggak bisa. Oke, Pak Robbie. Bu Irma will do the screen share.
I have the not the last version, but the first version. Is it okay or?
It's very different. So I will share for you. I will try to share.
Okay.
Sebentar ya. Sorry Pak Robi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dewi. Good afternoon for Indonesian participants. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to other parts of the world. Thank you to the all to attend this webinar second of construction industry. Is it okay? My voice, my audio?
Okay,
Hello?
Pak.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Sri Mariati to open this webinar second. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Related to the title according and also the main title of the international conference, I choose this title on how disease affects construction for saving lives. This is important because this issue is happened. Yeah, is ongoing. So we need to aware about this. In this agenda, firstly, in what is the disease nowadays in global in Indonesia. Yeah, second, and the next slide. Yeah, I have this agenda. I want to share about the 4 agendas. Is about diseases as an issue, and then residential building, and diseases affect construction, and the last is remarks. In this agenda, firstly, in what is the disease nowadays in global Indonesia, and the second, how is residential building meanings related to the regulation of Indonesia, and the third, is it true that the disease affect construction, and how far it influences the construction, and the four, for the last, I must give remarks at the end of this second webinar to Habitechno 5th International Conference. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this I will present in maybe in 15 minutes until 20 minutes. It's about information issues of the nowadays. Ladies and gentlemen, everywhere and every time we are all feared by keeping distancing, using your mask, washing your hands, spray your hands, and do not go anywhere. What has happened with this condition? Yes, now we're in a bad condition, if I may name it, but all the people agree with this name. Sure. Coronavirus is the cause. As WHO, World Health Organization, stated that not only about the definition and meanings, but also on how to face it. Next. Next slide, please. Yeah, we see this slide as we know that a virus as an infectious disease spread to all over a part of our lives. Begin a small population or small area that we name it with endemic, we know it. Then, if it is related to infectious, it will be vast to reach area that make people deaf. This condition reached still in limited numbers of victims because this is not to be global disease that we name it with epidemic. And now we are in a fabulous condition. It means we have a great infectious area, we have a great victim numbers, we have all continents that have corona troops, we call it, and we have increasing numbers of victims day by day. This fabulous condition that recognized as pandemic fever. Hence, in every part of our life, of our living space also, who did not know and recognize with Corona-19. Next slide, please. Then, according to the disease, Indonesia has issued in regulation related to how to build and anticipate a product of construction. In 2002, we have Building Act, and then to implementation, this act we guided to government regulation number 16, 2021, as I show you in this slide. Furthermore, deterioration, obsolete, and disaster causes being safety aspect to be considered, caused by structural, fire, and power impact. And the second, and how about the building when it operates? In this regulation provided sufficient assessment for the user requirements. As shown in this diagram, such as air circulation, water management, until materials construction. And then, can the building have added value from this reliability? This added value would be increased by accessibility, indoor air quality, viewing scene, and acoustic as well. And lastly, this might be the new one of this regulation related to the sustainability of the building and site. Both issued in this point, such as connectivity and infrastructures. So these are all issued due to reliability of the buildings based on performance consideration. Next, please. Ladies and gentlemen, as we see at this slide, illustrated that population being important that related to the data. We will know the data based on population, corona victims in this case. This population inform us in global numbers and Indonesian numbers. Sure, we are proudly with this champion in a huge numbers of population. Nevertheless, if we read the slide in yellow box in the left, graphic illustrates global population will be in the crossroads. They are low, medium, or high. Meanwhile, in 7 billion currently on year 2020. Next, the data from WHO, not yet, please, still, yeah. Inform us also decreasing probability in numbers caused by this situation is pandemic. New cases in more than 300,000, confirmed cases in more than 180 millions, and death cases in more than 4 millions. So, do we still not care about this situation? And this is a question always I ask to people near me in a few days. Next. Next slide, please. Let me see in Indonesia. It seemed not decrease in numbers, still up and up to highest statistic day by day, totally in more than 2.5 millions. That consists of more than 370,000 self-home cares, more than 2 million recovered, and more than 65,000 deaths. This data took from KPCPN, National Committee of COVID Control and Economic Recovery, on July 10, 2021. See graphic at right corner below illustrated that Jakarta still have biggest numbers of victims, then followed by West Java, Central Java, and then East Java. So overall, the big numbers still reached by Java Island. Of course, this is based on current population in Indonesia. Next. Now, we continue to the place where we are in. I think now we still aware about this. Currently, have spent the time in the building. This 90% is average. We stay at home. You know that we are living with a thing that we cannot see and feel it, what they are. Yes, it's stated by the name of pollutant. Here stated that 2 until 5 times they live with us at home more than at outside. Related to this situation, we must know these 9 fundamentals that the building is in healthy condition. Then we named by healthy building in this webinar, like Allen and Macomber named it. From these 9 fundamentals related to this pandemic situation, we have 4 points to be aware. They are ventilation, air quality, dust, pest, and microorganism, and water quality. I should correct about the red lines here. There are 4 included in water quality. Why? Because this infectious virus, which infecting us, is moving around in closed space easily. So we must be aware about this condition. Next slide. As we know, that this situation gives us heavily impact for the economic activities. Traditional and modern markets, offices, schools, and another economic sectors, they stopped their activities, they forbidden run their business. So this pyramid illustrated that how minimizing the risk of working space is related to the economic sector's impact. We can see that Allen and Macomber stated that between body protection and work from home is relating each other. In the top of pyramid, as the position in the body protection, such as we have to use mask, we have to use wear a face shield, and we have to wear a Google Eye. And this top is giving top level, I mean, giving influence for the low level in business activity, effectivity. Instead of part of below, how work from home can be minimizing the victims due to make it in the high level in business activity, effectivity. So hence this is a message that issued by Allen and Macomber in 2020, very insightful. Next, please. Actually, these both cannot to be compared each other by me, because left picture not similar with right side. I mean, left picture built when still much in numbers of natural materials at the time, then right picture. But both have similar in 9 fundamentals, which Allen and Macomber stated. Even though diverse in construction methods, material usage, basic design, needs, environment, culture, people, and others. Related to this pandemic, we also consider with this healthy home that issued in these 2 regulations. Public Work and Public Housing Ministry and Health Ministry both have similar regulations in how to define a home in health condition, as the name in healthy home. Public Works and Public Housing stated that it has 3 aspects to realize a healthy home in healthy aspects, safety aspects, and the last is comfortable aspects. While Health Ministry has stated that a healthy home is considering on psychological needs, diseases, and accident preventions. According to that, we have 6 emphases. They are ventilation, air conditioning, wastewater management, natural lighting, humidity, and temperature. Next slide, please. So, what is the significance of this topic for us? The slide illustrates that housing is important to be focused. Sorry, correction for this landed house. I mean on housing, related to this topic. So followed by building typologies of housing, as we can see in the left box. Single building, or cluster, or row houses, etc. All typologies I put in the facility, then the center of this diagram stated that the building has a reliability to be stated as the scope of the studies. Like I mentioned in the beginning slides previously, home is a place for humans to enjoy their activities, such as they can work, they make daily activities, they can play, that all stated as main consideration to be focused. Hence, this diagram is a significance how to connect it, the title and the remarks of my presentation. Next. These bubbles, I took it from Ashra Indonesia. They stated that we need 10,000 liters per day when needed 20,000 times breathing. Can you imagine about this statement? Can we try this? I'm asking you all to the audience. I never did it because I was not enjoying to count these numbers. It's hard to count. Ladies and gentlemen, then we do not need only to inhale 7 to 8 liters of air per minute, but also excrete it and 50% O2 and CO2. This statement, according to gain the better air quality, to enjoy when we and family spend the time at home, and also inhaling the air that contained of smallest particle like toxic gases. Next. Again, we can see about the illustration of air indoor situation in the slide. There are 4 statements issued by ASHRAE in 2020, such as refusing, changing, reducing, and controlling. That means refusing means using HVAC in pandemic situation because it may control dissemination of the virus. And changing means is operating the HVAC will decrease thermal stress and increase antibody of encounter virus. And reducing means ventilation and filtration in HVAC system can reduce concentration and risk of infectious. And the last, controlling means is a kind of transmission strategy to flow, ventilating, air cleaning, and others decrease concentration and risk of infectious. Next. Before we recognize how the building or construction can be reviewed, we must know about the readiness of the building, how the building is operated and maintained, how the building is controlled and adjusted, how the building is in its complexities and environment situation. These all will be considered to be to the next step on ready to be reviewed or assessed. This is called by building readiness. We need some general and additional information like building and environment documents they have. Then related to the pandemic, we need also information of before pandemic hit the society and infrastructure. These three building readiness should be better to consider to review and study before we assess and execute. Next, please.
Robbie, excuse me, your time 5 minutes left.
Okay, yeah. Building readiness, I took it from the statistic of the Badan Statistik Nasional. Next, please. I have notes from this statistic. Yeah. From the statistic, we may recognize about what is to be concerned, to be considered. They are about the components of the building, is the window, lightings, and ventilation. Next, please. Number 19 slide. Next. Next, once again. Yeah. And this slide, from this statistic, we may recognize about what is to be concerned, to be considered again. They are about the drainage, open spaces in front of the site condition and environment such as water surfaces field. Next, this what we have to do in a few days. Previously, during a month ago, we have a test case to do how to relate it to the title of this webinar. We have to do about to find out from the respondents to find how to respond of the environmental and living space. Next, please. Yeah. This must be considered to the adaptation of the disease with many questions that raised from the respondents to response. How to control the users, how to use SOP, how to sterilizing, how to control, how to manage the sanitation, all questions to collect it to be resumed. And next. Yes, I need this theory to support about this paper, about this presentation. A definition of adaptation is about managing and controlling the changes of the context of functional and physical attributes. So the end of the journey of the adaptation has to execute it as renovation works or retrofitting works. This based on our result. Next. Yeah, this is this only figure to illustrate about this condition nowadays. Yeah. Next. Yeah, this is the discussion of our team, yeah, to find out basic guidelines of pandemic for architects. We do not finish yet, still in progress. But in this webinar, I can show what we have to do. Now we have the result of discussion. We classified in 7 building categories to be reviewed. First, housing in Kampung Kota. Second, in cluster housing cluster with simple infrastructures, until to the multi-story building such as rumah susun and apartment. All have response from respondents. This due to infectious conditions. Next. Yeah. Okay. This is the result of our discussions from focus group discussion. Next. Yeah, this is related to the title, my title of this presentation. Yeah, are these saving lives? Are these affecting construction? Yeah, two questions to be answered. Yeah, and two questions to be anticipated with the renovation works and retrofitting works. What they are do, what they are affecting, or what they are affecting of construction with the new constructed and new installed. Yeah, as the definition of adaptation. Then next. Yeah, I have remarks for to the end of this webinar session. Yeah, based on the adaptation in regulation, the government has supported about the adaptation to recover from or protection from the infections of COVID. Yeah, so we do not care. We do not. We should have care about this to anticipate the infectious. Next. Yeah. What is the remarks from this paper? We can see that the vulnerable significance due to diseases is important to state it. Yeah, to be considered. How to construction adapted to execute it in renovation and retrofitting works. Yeah, to do. So from these remarks, I have next slide. Yeah. This is the illustration about the significance for further contribution. Yeah, I hope all attendees, all audience can follow this significance for further their contribution. Yeah, we can see about the adapted construction that affected by disease actually. Yeah, we can study, we can review an existing building and to find how reliability of the buildings exist, and then how to adapt it when the building operated, and then how to intervention, yeah, to anticipate about the disease, yeah, for saving lives, yeah. And in the box, in the light, in the end of the red box, and the green box at the end of the journey, this framework, yeah. We hope we will have a prerequisite guidelines for designing of the new buildings to anticipate the disease. Yeah. Okay. Next. Yeah, I think finish, Dr. Dewi, and thank you.
Thank you, Pak Robbie. Thank you very much, Pak Robbie Duiko Giuliani, since we have two Robbies today, for your very interesting presentation. Your presentation is very important, especially on the issues of COVID-19 pandemic effect to the construction and how to adapt with the condition. We hold the question and answer until the three panelists finish their presentation. Let us move to the second presenter. We have Dr. T.K. Chang as the second speaker. He is a senior lecturer in the University of Melbourne. Dr. T.K. holds bachelor degree of Civil Engineering from University of Malaya and Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Cambridge. He was an engineer of SEL Sarawak and ESO Singapore, lecturer and associate professor of Nanyang Technology University, and also has experience as technical manager on the THG construction, associate professor of University of Science and Technology Malaysia. And now he is a senior lecturer in the University of Melbourne. He holds professional registration from Professional Engineer Singapore as senior member of this institution also, and also holds ASEAN Chartered Professional Engineer. His main research interests are in the areas of construction economic and technology, and has published in major engineering and construction journals over a 20 years career as an academic. His research has been focused on various issues pertaining to construction industry development and has contributed to the development of construction industry strategies and initiatives in Malaysia. Pak Tike will share the idea on developing the Indonesian construction industry by improving technology and building resiliency. Even though Pak Tike is with us in this webinar, he has prepared a video presentation because he is worried that the internet network is not good since he is out of town today. The committee will display the video for us. Pak Adit, please play the video.
Good afternoon. I'm Tung Kwan Chan from the Melbourne School of Design, University of Melbourne. Firstly, I would like to thank colleagues at ITB for inviting me to speak at this webinar. Let me just share my screen. Allow me to introduce myself. My research focus is on how the construction industry operates, looking at issues of competitiveness, productivity, industry structure, contractor profitability, globalization, and more recently, imports of construction materials into Australia. I've worked in industry in Singapore and Malaysia and have insights into how technologies differ across countries. I have collaborated with academics at ITB for several years now. I was a visiting academic at the Civil Engineering faculty in 2019 and spent some time at ITB in January 2020 on my sabbatical, looking at construction industry development. Thanks to my colleagues at ITB, I had the opportunity to visit several project sites, including the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail project, speaking to academics, industry, and government while I was in Indonesia. I was also involved in construction industry development in Malaysia, working with CIDB Malaysia to review their industry strategy and conducted a midterm evaluation several years ago. I have only 20 minutes to present, so let me share some of my ideas on technology and resilience, and we can spend a bit more time addressing some of your questions. I will briefly describe some of the challenges in the construction industry and how difficult it is to change the way the industry operates. The second part is a brief review of the Indonesian construction sector. This will be a very macro approach where I look at the industry as a whole, identify issues and challenges going forward. There has been significant investments into infrastructure during President Widodo's first term in office, which is now continuing into the second term. I see possibly a slowdown with infrastructure investment to combat the pandemic, but once the pandemic is under control, I believe the focus will go back to infrastructure and human capital development, which is very important. Let us look at what we mean by construction. This is a photograph of the technology and commercialization building at Jalan Ganesha across the road from the main ITB campus. We visited this project site in January 2020, where I got to see Indonesian construction up close. It remains very labor intensive with minimum use of modern methods of construction. Lots of workers on site carrying out physical construction activities. Most of us define construction as assembly activities carried out by a construction company at a project site, what you see in this photograph. But if you think about the industry, a few more stakeholders are involved, such as developers, material suppliers, manufacturers, equipment hire, and labor supply firms. Construction constitutes about 6 to 10% of the national economy. It is closer to 10% for a developing country like Indonesia. But when we consider other stakeholders, the broader construction sector may contribute up to 20% of the economy, which is very significant. I always like to compare construction with the manufacturing industry. For example, in manufacturing, one company controls all the activities from product design to sales and marketing. There is only one brand that the customer or client sees. On the other hand, there is no single company that controls all the processes in the construction industry. For an apartment building, the idea comes from the developer, who then engages architects, engineers, and other consultants to design the building. Manufacturers will produce the building components like doors and windows, while the builder assembles it all on a building site. As a result, the industry is characterized by lots of small companies and only very few large companies. You may ask, why is this important? The structure of the industry, the structure of the construction industry is not conducive for innovation and collaboration. The relationships are antagonistic and confrontational. We often describe the construction industry as project-oriented. The team is assembled and comes to work on a project and then disperses upon completion. Companies are highly specialized but very fragmented. Companies make small profits, take on disproportionate amount of risk, and insolvencies are higher than any other sector. For some reason, these same problems, late delivery, poor quality, poor budgetary control, appears time and again, and in many countries. One innovative company, Katera, tried a new model where one company acts as the architect, material supplier, manufacturer, general contractor, trade contractor, and project manager for buildings. Please go online and find out what happened to Katera recently. Let me briefly describe what I see about the construction industry in Indonesia. Firstly, there has been large investments into infrastructure in recent years, elevating the contribution of construction to about 10% of GDP. Inflation-adjusted growth of the sector is at 11% per year and is expected to continue. If we were to map the output of the construction industry, it is clearly concentrated in the capital city, Jakarta, and the island of Java. As you can see, 2/3 of the construction output is in Java, where most of the economic activity is located. When we look at construction output relative to area and population, there is clearly a bias towards Jakarta, but you can also see investments being distributed to less developed regions in Papua Barat, Kalimantan, or in regions with less economic activities, in line with the vision of equitable development across the nation. We now look at the productivity of workers as construction output increases. Data is available for two groups of workers, permanent workers and daily workers. With your recent increases in infrastructure investment, productivity of permanent workers has increased by about 8% per year. Unfortunately, there is no observable increase for daily workers. Wages and output have remained constant. Now, what this tells us is that with your increased construction demand, more workers were required. there was no increase in the productivity of daily workers. This has important implications for skills and training. The third section of my presentation looks at development of the construction industry. When we discuss development, we speak broadly about improving the industry and making it more efficient in constructing buildings and infrastructure. Let us look at how the World Bank proposes to develop the construction industry. The World Bank has sponsored infrastructure in many developing countries and therefore has an interest to develop domestic construction capacity. They have come up with a model for construction industry development which focuses on 5 factors. A strong public policy on industry development with an agency to promote development. Developing competent managers and technical staff in construction companies. Training for workers, professionals, and managers. Adoption of appropriate technologies. And with this, we mean not just the very latest technologies, but technologies that are suited for particular countries, given their natural resources and factors of production. There is a need for efficient contracting and procurement systems. And where the government is usually the largest client, you depend on public procurement activities to be an example for the industry. There are, of course, more factors for industry development. Professor Ofori, who did a lot of work in this area, suggested 3 additional factors. Number 1, the need for economic growth to ensure that these policies can be supported and time for these policies to take effect. The development of national standards and codes of practice, and finally, to provide incentives to domestic companies to build capacity to compete with international firms. This can include incentives for local firms to enter into joint ventures with foreign firms for technology transfer, or slicing up larger projects so that smaller local firms can participate. Let us look at 2 recent industry development strategies in Singapore and Malaysia. I was involved with the Malaysian Construction Industry Master Plan that was launched in 2006, and again for a second plan that was launched in 2016. The Construction Industry Transformation Program shown here was primarily focused on addressing the problems of low productivity, slow technology adoption, and the employment of foreign workers. The 4 key areas of the strategy are shown in a slide here. They are quality, sustainability, productivity, and competitiveness. Singapore's Building and Construction Authority launched its Industry Transformation Map in 2019. It focused on 3 key areas. DFMA, with an emphasis on highly automated off-site production facilities. Several large contractors now operate integrated construction and precast hubs in Singapore. The next areas are green buildings and integrated digital delivery, focusing on sustainability and digital tools. All these initiatives are based on the challenges and requirements relevant to the industry in Malaysia and Singapore at a point in time. Indonesia has to assess what the industry needs are and to design your own development strategies. I will try to give you an example of how we make decisions on technology choice. We created this simple analysis of what drives technology choice in the construction industry. Let us look at the cost of 1 cubic meter of concrete and the wages for a skilled worker for 1 hour in Malaysia. The cost of 1 cubic meter of concrete is 215 ringgit, and 1 hour of skilled worker wage is 25 ringgit. So 1 cubic meter of concrete is equivalent to about 8.5 hours of wages. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is 1 cubic meter of concrete is equal in value to 12.5 hours of skilled labor. You don't need to worry about currency. We now carry out the same analysis for 3 other countries. In Australia, for example, 1 cubic meter of concrete is equal to 2.3 hours of skilled labor. In Indonesia, it's 40 hours. In India, 75 hours. What does this simple comparison tell us? Labor is cheap and concrete is expensive in India. While in Australia, labor is expensive, concrete is cheap. So India will adopt technologies that saves on concrete and possibly use more labor, while Australia will adopt technologies that save on labor. A similar analysis on steel bars also indicate a similar trend. Labor is cheap and materials are expensive in Indonesia and India. Some of you may ask, what else can we do with this analysis? Can we also compare materials against other materials? Yes. This is a comparison of brick and timber versus concrete. 1,000 bricks is equal in value to 3.9 cubic meters of concrete in Australia. Okay, so if you look carefully at the cost of brick and timber and compare it across these 4 countries, which material should you use in each location? Which material is cheaper? It is clear that timber is cheaper than brick in Australia, while brick is cheaper than timber in Malaysia, Indonesia, and India. This helps explain why we built using timber frames in Australia, while you have more brick houses in Indonesia. If we extend the analysis to the use of machinery, we can also see that 1 hour of mobile crane hire is equivalent to 450 hours of skilled labor in Indonesia, while the same crane is only worth 20 hours in Australia. So this explains why it makes economic sense to use more machinery for our construction activities. Let me show you a comparison of 2 methods of forming up concrete structures in Malaysia and Australia. In Malaysia, they use timber and plywood. Everything is manually built and concrete is cast in situ. This is labor intensive, but can be achieved with very little capital investment. The picture on the right is how we built in Australia. Bond deck permanent formwork, precast concrete columns, and precast walls. This requires a much higher capital cost, but saves on labor hours. This figure will explain why we use bond deck permanent formwork. The cost of a concrete slab consists of formwork, reinforcements, and concrete, and it costs about $240 per square meter in Australia and about $50 in Indonesia. But look carefully, in Australia, the cost of formwork is more than half of the total cost. It is expensive because of our high labor cost. Whereas in Indonesia, the cost of the formwork is very small, with the majority of the cost on materials, steel and concrete. Now let us think about how we can improve technology adoption in Indonesia after you've seen my very simple analysis. Number 1, you are in a country with low labor costs and abundant labor. Wages for construction workers remain low. In recent years, the greater demand for construction has led to more workers being employed, not improvements in productivity. So what Indonesia needs is to improve productivity of its workers so they can earn higher wages. Number 2, you need to choose correct materials. Usually, local materials are the cheapest. You build capacity of local material supply and manufacturing either bricks, cement, timber, or concrete blocks, whichever is most appropriate. Number 3, you choose the most appropriate technology. Do not simply import the most advanced technological processes because the drivers are very different in developed countries. Some labor-intensive construction in Indonesia may actually serve as opportunities to train workers and provide employment. Let me try to cover some aspects of building resilience in the construction industry. Here, I am not talking about disaster recovery or how to build the town of Palu when it was hit by an earthquake in 2018. I will instead provide some suggestions to build more resilient construction industry by focusing on the materials that we use to build, the technology, the companies, the supply chains, and the workers. For materials, it is obvious that the industry should be focusing on locally available building materials and minimize imported materials which may be disrupted in the event of a logistic or shipping delays. Shifting some of site activities from the building site to off-site construction will reduce safety risk, supply risk, and interruptions from the weather. We also know that quality improves. Some of the new materials that allows new methods of construction, such as mass timber structures, now allow for CNC cutting of wall panels and slabs. Another area to develop is precasting and prefabrication technologies that are less dependent on site works. With prefabrication, specialists, subcontractors, and suppliers can supply components across large distances, in effect, building a wide network of suppliers across Indonesia. So if one city is facing disruption, prefabricators in another city can come in to supply prefabricated components. The next focus is on companies. Small companies struggle to achieve a reasonable level of resilience, and many companies have not developed any resilience concepts into their management. The idea is to train managers and professionals to implement some resilience planning into their company strategies. Moving some of the construction activities to the supply chain can contribute to resilience as long as these suppliers are reliable. And you can source from different suppliers in various parts of the country in case of logistics disruptions in one particular area. The last and most important factor is to provide training to workers. The industry needs skilled workers and competent professionals. With higher skills, the workers will be able to command higher wages and be more efficient in using materials and tools, leading to overall improvements in productivity. Resilience is a combination of many factors, and all these must be available to some extent to build overall resilience in the construction industry. That concludes my presentation. I hope I have given you some ideas on how technology evolves, what works in a particular country, and what drives changes in technology. Similarly, I hope I have described some areas where the construction industry can improve its resilience to reduce the impact of disruptions of disasters by choosing the correct technology, using the most appropriate materials, spreading manufacturing capacity across companies and regions, and improving the level of training and skills for the workers. Thank you. I can be contacted at the email and phone number here, or if you wish to look at the cost data for the technology choice, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Pak TK. Hello? Yeah. Thank you very much, Pak TK, for your very interesting explanation and the various suggestions that you provide are very also interesting for us to discuss. especially in the issue of the country industry development strategy transformation program. Before we have a discussion, let us continue first to listen. Let us continue to listen to the presentation from the third speaker. The last speaker is Dr. Robbie Sutanto from the School of Architecture, Building and Civil Engineering, Loughborough University, United Kingdom. He is a Construction Engineering Management Program Director and also Senior Lecturer in Construction Management, Loughborough University. He holds a PhD in Construction Management from the University of Wolverhampton, UK, Master degree in Construction Engineering and Management from AIT, Thailand, and Bachelor degree in Civil Engineering from Petra Christian University, Indonesia. He has published 3 books, 43 international referred journal papers, 56 conference papers, 5 book chapters, 3 invited papers, 3 edited works, and his research reputation on the Scopus, Google Scholar, and ResearchGate is very high. His field of expertise is in socio-technology approaches in digital innovation adoption in construction and disaster resilience, especially on the deployment of blue-green infrastructure to alleviate flood risk in urban areas. He got so many projects and grants, as you can see in the information on the screen. Dr. Robbie will share with us the ideas concerning on the future of digital construction. Pak Robbie Sutanto, time and screen is yours. I will give a sign if you have 5 minutes left. Please.
Yes, thank you, Budai, for good introductions. And also thank you for inviting me to give a presentation in this webinar. So of course, I was organizing committee of Habitechno, a successful conference in November. So I would like to carry on the themes from Pak TK about industry development, focusing on digital technology and adoption. So I would like to share some of the experience that we have in the UK. So and hope that's really conclude our webinar today with a nice remark. So I will share my screen. Hopefully you all can see now. Is that okay? Yeah, it's good.
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 Very good.
Right. Okay. So let's start off. Right. So most people would not associate change with the construction industry. So it's especially not rapid change and rapid change in the reality of the COVID-19 crisis, especially for construction. So with unprecedented impact on the global industry company and being forced to rapidly adopt innovative solutions because of the COVID situations. So in this webinar, I will talk about driving force for change other than COVID, focusing on emerging disruption, the current performance improvement agenda in the UK on transforming construction challenge. Particularly, I would like to share some of the key findings in the DECON projects. And then I will talk about future scenario, technology adoption process maps, and the changing business model as a response to the technology adoptions. So the specific question I wish to address are, what are the pathways to transform construction future enabled by high payback digital technology, and what are the possible business model resulting from the associated adoption of digital transformation here. So I would like to share some of the information that I found from McKinsey and Company. That was last year. So basically, this is the driver of change in the next 15 years. So which will shape the future industry characteristic, the future industry form in the next 15 years. So basically, we have two forces, that is change in market characteristic on the left-hand side, and then emerging disruption technology on the right-hand side. So from market characteristics, we will see change in customer demand. So it's more sophisticated customer, increase emphasis on cost, and whole life cost, and also increased demand for digital interaction, simplified interaction with digital construction, and also increased complexity of projects. So in terms of the industry input, we'll see scarcity of skilled laborers, which have been happening in the UK for the last 15 years, and also looking at how the construction input and characteristic responds to the emergence of new materials and modular construction. And also in terms of the market rules and regulation, we'll see stricter regulation of safety with the case of Grenfell Towers, that is the burn down of towers, one of the residential tower in the UK that 81 people has perished their life. And also stricter regulation in terms of regulation, low carbon agenda, and also emphasize on modern method of construction and more standardization. So from emerging disruption, we'll see industrialization. So shifting from a production from on-site to off-site. The new material, lightweight materials that improve logistics and be able to allow delivery further, and digitalization, which we'll see about BIM, and now we are looking for a further than BIM in terms of industry 4.0 and so on. And also we have new entrants, so we will see Google, from its parent company Alphabet invest in Newark, Toronto. So that's a case of new players, new boys, and the big boys in the technology sector who has significant, much more fun to actually invest in construction. More closely to UK, we have Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is an investment financial company who invest on a top-hat company that develop prefabricated component and deliver on site and assemble on site. So that's the new type of production. And the future industry, what the future industry look like? So it's much more product-based approach, much more specializations, much more value control integration. So there will be much more integration, vertical integration within the supply chains, and consolidations. This is an example that we perhaps see in the aerospace sectors. After the Second World War, aerospace sector, when if you sort of order a plane, they have a sort of more bespoke kind of approach to design and construction of the aeroplane. But over the last after that, the next 30 years, we will see the emergence of two big players such as Boeing and Airbus. Customer-centric and branding. So you got houses that's produced by IKEA, Boklok, for example. That's something that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. Of course, with the move to off-site production, there will be investment in technology, digital manufacturing, and as well as a factory and so on. And also emphasis on human resource, internationalization agenda as well, and sustainability, which again is a very important driver for change. Okay, so we'll look at what is the potential, from advanced technology in terms of Industry 4.0 has allowed the development of digital ecosystem, which focus on integration of technology to enhance performance. So this allows us to shift our orientation from point solution to digital ecosystem. So point solution means that IT offering that has a singular focus on one problem or one use case in a stovepipe type of solution. So example is project planning application used today is disconnected from what is happening in the supply chain on site. Perhaps we look at weather, meteorological risk, and so forth. So this singular focus usually lead to silo solution that makes real-time data inaccessible to other solution. So as you see in the diagram in my slide, we have digital layers, which is a design mostly, and then physical layers, a construction with the possible relevant technologies there, which I wouldn't sort of explain in every single detail because of time constraint. So they can building together, and the role of BIM, building information modeling, and common data environment here is central in the process. Yeah. So a digital representation of physical object, BIM, link all this technology together. This approach allow a two-way communication between a digital layer on the top there, and then physical layer on the second half at the bottom. So this concept is in line with the term digital twin here. So how are we going to to enhance this potential, or to harness this potential to improve the performance? So so in the last sort of 3 years, almost 4 years now, the UK government initiated a transforming construction agenda, which set a performance target of lower construction cost to 33%, faster delivery, 50% save in time, lower emissions, and an improvement in export, 50%. So we in the UK we don't very much produce goods, so we are into knowledge economy and mostly financial sectors and services. So therefore there is a need for the construction to actually export expertise internationally as well. So that's is strengthened by the industrial strategy, yeah. So which recommend digital techniques, off-site manufacturing, and consideration of whole life asset performance to achieve these targets. Yeah. So what does it mean in practice? So this means moving to factory-based production, and this is a sort of wall panel, or the wall panel of houses perhaps, and it's been made in a factory. So this is called it a structural insulated panel. So where you have services, the pipes and couplings, everything is installed on site, and and then once this component is finished, is assembled, still in the factory, very controlled environment, and then deliver on site. So there is a need for vertical integration, vertical integration. So the plumber who used to work on site, now you have to work on the factory, fitting in everything on the component when is it made in the factory and deliver on site. So everything has to fit nicely when it actually assembled on site. Yeah. Okay, so but this is not new. So we know these things that is happening. So this is an example. Boklok is a joint venture between Skanska and IKEA. So both of them are a Swedish company. So I hope you know about Skanska and IKEA. IKEA is perhaps more well known. It's a furniture, mostly selling furniture and other stuff, household stuff. So this joint venture produces houses based on standardized component produced in a factory, and it was originated in Sweden and has developed market in Finland, Norway, and in the UK. I think in the UK we have last year we have about 400 houses, adopting Backlog as part of Backlog projects. So another example is Katera in the US. So I think Pak TK mentioned it earlier briefly. So they use concept called building platform, which encompass a catalog of components which are standardized but could fit into different building. This permit a combined standardizations and customization. Customization is to meet the different requirement from the customer. So the platform are a set of components that interact in a very well-defined ways to allow a range of product and service to be produced. Yeah. So the term platform is often used in software and manufacturing industry, where the system based around platform has support rapid innovation and form a basis for growth and value. An example of platform is car chassis. In the UK, in the past we have an example of one chassis, produced for Ford Mondeo, which is very much middle kind of class cars, and the same company, the same chassis actually being used for Jaguar X-Type. So Jaguar X-Type is slightly, higher level, higher type of cars. So you can build, different type of product with the same platform. Some of the example, Katera produce Kova butt kit. Yeah. So this is they say in the, it's a flat pack, butt kit, and it require only 2 people to assemble, and within 4 hours. And of course, within their marketing brochure, they say, improve predictability, schedule efficiency, and so on. And we'll see some of the example quite nice fitted path as a result of that. So so innovation is involved risk. So what happened with Katera recently, or probably last year now. So they ceased trading for a reason which we could discuss during a discussion session after my presentation. Yeah. So when we talk about technology, so we need to talk about whether they can make a business case. So this diagram, again, I use McKinsey & Co. publication here. So show distribution of value across value chains of development process using offsite and platform concept. So the value chains involve developments of concept, design and engineering, manufacturing and component, distribution, offset manufacturing and construction and assembly. The blue bar is a result of a shift to offset or platform system. So the blue bar here, so there will be much more offset construction associated value here is much higher. And then you can see as well here, as a result of the combined value, we have 20 to 30% value, additional value here, and also on top of that is additional value as a result of improve efficiency, save times, quality, improve quality, and so forth. Yeah. The red bar, small, spread across the stage here. So this is the represent value at risk. Yeah. The biggest red bar we'll see is general contracting here, and also specialist contracting. So this is 20 to 25% reduction. Yeah. So that means that there will be less work for general contractors, and also less work for specialist subcontractors if we move to sort of offsite and platform systems. Yeah. So there is some business case, strong business case for transformation. If this trend is really happening, then the production mode is shifting. Yeah, and there will be less work on site. So beware of this trend for general contractor now. Right. Okay. So the issue now, how we can transform construction, the existing construction we'll see on the picture here. So this is perhaps very common, very untidy. Everything is done on site. To transform into an off-site system where the modular components deliver and assembly on site very quickly. And also how we can also utilize, digital technology, the technology that we have, and also how we can improve the skill. Yeah. So decon projects, which I have done in the last 2 years, is seeing common problem in construction could be addressed by implementing appropriate digital technology as an enabler, and also improving delivery process and business model and skill. Yeah, so that's is really has to be considered within the context, socioeconomic context, policy, culture, and structures, and this is what makes decon projects. And the real research question is, what are the pathway to transform construction future enabled by high payback digital technology? So we need to see that in the projects, how we can define this pathway. So we did kind of research that involve literature review, interview with industry practitioners, and also we develop focus groups and workshop as well. So that's some of the detail which I wouldn't be able to talk about in great detail here, but just to give an idea about the kind of thing that we actually did. And this is the result that we come up. So we did some issue management, issue analysis on various industry engagement activity, and we produce scenario based on 2 axes. One axis is the extent of investment in R&D, and the other axis is the collaboration, isolation, fragmentation, and integration axis. And we have come up with 4 scenarios. And the scenario that we really like to achieve is a utopia scenario transformation, which is where a situation where we have high investment in R&D, and also high integration and collaboration between supply chains partners, between state supply chain members. So the aspiration will be to transform and shift from another scenario, from lonely investment to utopia transformation, and cheap combination to utopia transformation. And this is the investment is high investment on R&D and a lot of fragmentation, where there are a lot of competition between supply chain members, but still there are investment from the private sectors and working in tandem with government public sector investment. And cheap combination is there is no investment because of economic crisis, but there are collaboration for the purpose of make it work. So yeah, so there are a lot more detail in this scenario, but perhaps because of time constraint, I won't be able to explain in great detail. But bearing in mind that this scenario probably exists today for different situations, for different group of people, it just really give an idea about the aspirational target of utopia transformation, and also encouraging the government and various stakeholders in construction to kind of actually target transformation to utopia transformation. Yeah. So that's another product that we as a research team produce. There are 3 stages of digital adoption roadmap, we call it. Yeah. So first one is island automation. Yeah. So independent user device connected to IoT network, accessing individual server in the cloud. Yeah. The network is primarily Wi-Fi and cellular service connected to the internet. And then in the intermediate here, we have technology enrichment, which is really powered by edge network. So AI install and edge device. So edge computing push the data processing application and service away from the centralized cloud to the extreme of network. So this sort of methods actually improve response time, save bandwidth, reduce data transit, security threats, and also enabling use case from example autonomous driving, autonomous vehicle to remote asset diagnostics. So the last stage will be industry transformation, which is really a transformation which is powered by artificial intelligence, where you have technology that produce self-sustaining innovation and development. So this is a very detailed, so I won't be able to discuss it in great detail here because of the time constraint. But I'd like to move on with the key message in my presentation here. Okay, so and then move on from there. So we got a lot of beautiful technology that enabling us to be more efficient, to improve our performance. And then why is it so the adoption in the industry is so low? So we need to look at what is really the underlying issue here. So we can also really learn from other industry, with regard to the business model. So business model, there are a lot of definition, but really in essence, it's about the rationale how an organization creates, deliver, and capture values. So basically how the company make money. So some of the example that we have saw in the past 10 years or so is, for example, Rolls-Royce. Yeah, Rolls-Royce, the jet engine manufacturer, adopt hour by hour business model. So you only pay Rolls-Royce if you use the engine. So this allow low-cost airline to operate profitably. Yeah, of course, just before COVID now. So Skype, everyone knows Skype. So Skype is free. Skype to Skype call is free. Yeah. But if you call Skype, using Skype calling telephone lines or mobile, HP, then you have to pay. Yeah. So 90% of the Skype user only use it for free, and then only 10% actually pay. But Skype has been very prosperous and it's been acquired by Microsoft. Yeah, so MS Teams is, perhaps is have similar feature to Skype because they are kind of now owned by the same companies. Another example is Amazon. Yeah, so Amazon is really connect the demand and supply side. So it's very, very interesting that the demand side, the customer can actually improve value by giving feedback. Yeah, so we've been asked about feedback about how the product works and how delivery have worked well or not, and it's very, very interesting that to see trend there. And also, we'll see Uber. Uber is really how we can utilize the unused resources. Again, it's connecting between provider and purchaser. And it's, Uber is not building, it's not having new cars or invest in cars to like a normal taxi company, but they are actually using unused resources, private cars, that is involved. So it's making a lot out of it. So how we can learn from their business model and apply in construction. So in construction, traditional business model, perhaps I can summarize into two models. That is contracting. So contracting is very fragmented. So it's really big boys controlling supplier and subcontractors, and most of the profit goes to big boys, and they try to naturally they try to press on the suppliers to make as little profit as possible, and this is a problem that if you don't give sufficient profits, then it's more likely than not you cut corners. You save here and there, and it's not really aligned with the performance improvement agenda here. And another business model is developer model. So developer is one of those important factors that creates housing shortage in the UK, and they make a lot of profit again. They have no interest on the long-term sustainability of the house. So they make money from land acquisition. So they have land bank. So once you go a land bank, then you increase the value of the land to perhaps many times, multiple times. So they're not really in line. They have no interest on improving the performance in construction. So we have digital technology and how we create a new business model. And I wouldn't be able to answer this immediately, but I think there are a few things that perhaps we could learn from here.
Robbie, excuse me, your time is 2 minutes left.
So this is my last slide actually. So yeah, so what I did is I tried to map out the technologies, the things that we've seen in the past few slides, and map against the business model element. Again, value creation, value delivery, and value capture. So one of the things that is important for attributes of the Industry 4.0 is automatic collection of operational data, efficient data sharing, and data analytics. So this is the thing that perhaps can create values. And what is the value proposition from there? Improve control of the process synchronizations, reduce time cost, better quality, and improve collaborations. And value delivery here is collaboration between supply chains and clients, IoT infrastructure, and standard on product and process. And the company should have competency in data science, manufacturing, factory management, and relationship management and networking to improve, to enhance, to harness value network. And what come up from there is integrated service that provide one-stop solution to meet the client requirements. So this is normally is already happening. This is normally the toy of the big boys, yeah. So big contractors who provide one-stop solution from design, construction, operation and maintenance. The second is a specialist role as manufacturing assembly manager, system integrator, chief information officer, and design automation. So this is a new role, which is pretty much individual. And the last thing, which really addressing the characteristic of the industry, is technology as a service business model, or development of technology mobilization center, that is really helping out SMEs, small company, which is comprised probably 90% of of the structure of the sector, actually embrace this new business model and this new way of working, and that's hopefully bring a revenue. Okay, so that's my kind of last slide. But again, so it's part of the part of the research which I'm a principal investigator. So funded by Transforming Construction Network Plus, which I'm really grateful, and we have a collaborator from Smart Center Manufacturing and offsite manufacturer of ship panels and innovative manufacturing and construction solution, and also the Deacon team, my teams, is we have IT consultant Mike and a number of other academic as well. So thank you for listening. So that's my email address, that's my Twitter account. So hopefully that's will generate questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Robbie, for very comprehensive ideas and interesting presentation. Some of your ideas from support the ideas of Pak TK. Yeah? I believe some of attendees have a question to be asking to you. Since all speakers have conveyed their ideas and information, it's time for us to have and to move to the question and answer section. We are a little bit behind schedule, so the time remaining for Q&A is only maybe 15 minutes. First, I would like to ask Pak Doni to ask his question directly to the panelists. Pak Doni, would you like to ask?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm sorry I closed my camera because of the unstable internet in my locations. Okay, the first questions to Pak Robbie is about the thermal comfort that you mentioned about the thermal comfort. Then the indoor air quality. So why you just mentioned the thermal comfort than indoor air quality? Because right now, the important thing is indoor air quality than thermal comfort. Because the thermal comfort is not just it's not directly affect to the pandemic situation. And ASRE already come up with the standard right now. That's the indoor air quality is changed, but the thermal comfort is not changed. It's not changed. So what do you think about this, Pak Robbie?
Yeah, thank you.
Robbie,
which one, Robbie? Which one, Robbie? Which one, Robbie, do you want?
Yeah, Pak Robbie Twiko.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bu Dewi.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Doni. Actually, the question from Pak Doni a little bit similar with question from Ibu Anedia. Please answer the question, Pak Robbie Dwi Juliari.
Ibu Anedia.
So about the lighting requirement and the circulation natural.
Oh yeah, okay, thank you, Pak Doni dan Ibu Sep. Okay, yeah, about the thermal comfort that I mentioned is related to the definition. I took it from the Healthy House Regulation that issued by Public Works and Public Housing Ministry. Yeah, that is stated about the thermal comfort, not indoor air quality. Yeah, so indoor air quality is based on my statement to the end of the my presentation that will be considered by the assessed by the reviewing all the three considerations. Yeah, air conditioning, sanitation, and natural lighting. Yeah, I think that's my response.
Thank you, Pak Robbie. Duiko Giuliani. We have actually 12 questions in the Q&A feature. Some of the questions already answered by the panelists, but I would like to read maybe 3 questions to be answered by the panelists directly, so all of the attendees can hear the answer from you. From Pak Fauzan Alfi, question for Dr. Robbie Sutanto, as mentioned by the Dr. TK in his presentation, that is suggested for Indonesia to adopt some labor-intensive technology in the construction project. What kind of digital technologies that are suitable with the suggestion? Another question is, what your suggestion to combat pseudo BIM approach or pseudo utilization of digital construction technology that happen in some building project? I think Pak Robbie and Pak TK can answer the questions. Please. First, Pak Robbie or Pak TK? Pak Robbie first, please. Robbie.
Yeah, I think that's question has a good question. So with the technology is out there, so it's not new. we in construction we don't develop technology ourselves. I mean, in terms of digital technology. So instead we try to adopt and apply it, in specific context. So this contextual factor is very important. So we need to know what is the need. Yeah, if there is any need to adopt certain technology, perhaps what if we have a condition where labor in relative to the technology, relative to material cost is relatively is considered cheap, then what is the need then? I mean, the need perhaps is to do with perhaps safety, health and safety. So even the labor is perhaps quite cheap, but safety and health should not be compromised. Nobody want to get COVID or whatever it is. So that's something that perhaps need to be seen before we choose the technologies that can improve performance. So improve performance doesn't mean only improve efficiency, but also improve safety and health as well. So what is the second question that been asked? Sorry.
The second question is about suggestion to combat pseudo BIM approach or pseudo utilization of digital construction technology that happen in some building projects.
Yeah, so that's perhaps is similar. I think we need to act across the whole ecosystems. And, of course, that means also the public sector, the government should give mandate or will require everybody who work for the government to adopt a certain level of BIMs. And similar to the UK, that was, over 10 years now. And it has improved the adoption very much. And, and I think the discussion now is not just about adopting BIM, although BIM is still adoption in the private sectors across smaller projects perhaps is still need to be improved. But generally speaking, for public sector project for certain amount, a certain value on top of certain value, that's already been implemented very much. And that's we require a lot of collaboration. I mean, to give you an example, innovation is a risk, yeah. So I mentioned earlier about Katera, and Katera has ceased trading last year, I believe. And what happened was Katera, the way they create this big business, 8,500 employees actually, is actually by acquisitions of players within the supply chain. And because of this process, as you would expect, there's a lot of, and if the demand is not continuing, yeah, and interestingly enough, the client in the of the construction industry would like to have a bespoke solution, and it's not standardized solution. And if the emphasis is not bespoke solution, means that the standardization solution, offset solution, perhaps is difficult to work, yeah, because there is no continuation demand that the profits, the profit and reserve of the company actually being eat out by the overheads, and therefore it's just trading. However, it doesn't mean that innovation is dead, yeah. But the idea will go on, and again, the contextual factors will really prevail here, and will really highlight what kind of technologies that's appropriate to be used. Yeah. So that's I'll give you an overview of my thought really. I don't know if Pak Tike has some other views on this.
Yeah, before Pak Tike answered the question, I would like to read also some questions that directly to Pak Tike. Yeah. First from Marcus Gartiwa. Pak Marcus Gartiwa asks, what kind of the strategy, especially the government in Indonesia, can develop local-based construction industry in facing the large area of Indonesia from Sabang to the Merauke. And also the question from Pak Anjar, prefabricated construction is less attractive to local housing developers, especially in landed housing in Indonesia. Actually, there are a lot of research and development of prefabricated product in Indonesia, but they don't reach local developers. In your view, what are the important issues so that these prefabricated materials can be well recognized by the construction industry community and housing developer in Indonesia? And from Bu Novia, regarding the productivity of construction work, based on your presentation, it can be seen that material selection can reduce the number of laborers. Based on your experience, what is the biggest challenge for the changing the mindset, the construction field of work that provide the greatest job opportunities, especially in Indonesia? Please, Pak TK. Also, maybe Pak Robbie Sutanto can add some information.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Let me tackle them one at a time. Indonesia, very large country. From what I've seen, you have very good contractors working in Jakarta, in the big cities. You then have where these large contractors are very capable, they have access to all the modern technologies, and you have other contractors who are spread out throughout the entire country who may not be performing at the same levels as the contractors in Jakarta. So when you start to think about an industry development strategy, you have to take care of both groups of all these contractors. So when I talk about the construction industry in general, I am talking about the median contractor who may not have these skills. What Pak Robbie is talking about, he is more talking from a perspective of a UK company, which is exactly the same as what we have in the Australian construction industry, where the factors, the challenges are very, very different. We have generally all highly skilled construction workers. So we do not have the same problems you have. And it is very hard for us as outsiders to come into Indonesia and tell you what to do. It has to be for us to really understand what's going on. What are your challenges? And I believe your number one challenge is that your construction workers are not highly skilled. Your construction workers are informal workers. You engage them on very, very short-term basis to come and work on your construction sites. Many of them do not have training. So they are working at a very physical level, whereas the construction workers in the UK and in Australia are very highly trained. They are sometimes paid more than academics, all right? And it's a very, very different system of the structure of the industry is different. So this is where we say it is very hard for us to just recommend something based on our experiences. We have to sit down with Indonesians to work out what suits Indonesia. Your second question about prefabrication, in most lower labor cost countries, prefabrication will end up to be more expensive. So if you look at the perspective of a contractor, they will never use prefab because it is more costly. There are, of course, other reasons of using prefab, like Pak Robbie says, safety, schedule, very specific site conditions. If you have a very narrow site, you don't have the space to physically put 300 workers there, yes, go prefab. But generally, prefab ends up to be more expensive in a lower cost country. I can even give you an example, even for Singapore, where the minister, when he opened a brand new building at the Nanyang Technological University, said that it was built out of mass engineered timber. It ended up to be more expensive, but used 25% less labor. All right, so the bottom line, yes, more productive, less workers, but more expensive. Now, you have to decide as Indonesians, what type of industry you want. Are you willing to pay more for better quality, faster, and less workers? Probably not, because you have a large labor force. productivity, how do you change mindset? Now that's very hard. Possibly training your workers so that they become more skilled, training your professionals to be more effective. I'm happy to listen to your suggestions or your opinion about my answers. I'm not saying that I know all the answers. I'm just giving you some suggestions from my perspective. Over to you, Pak Robbie.
Yeah, I think you Pak TK summarized the idea very well. My perspective, I would like to add one thing really, is the client, is the demand side. If we don't have educated client, then there is no demand for more efficient building, more expensive building, but better in other performance aspects. Yeah. So whether it's sustainability, whether it's quality, and so forth. So I think we need demonstration. We need educated client, which could be driven by the government as a client. Yeah, so demanding certain level of performance and promoting best practice and making sure to use indigenous technologies and material that is appropriate for Indonesian context. Yeah, not necessarily that what we have in the UK or Australia will be applicable to Indonesia, because is entirely different things. But perhaps what we kind of share today is the kind of idea that might be appropriate for Indonesia moving ahead. Yeah. Okay. That's my time being.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Robbie, Pak TK, and also Pak Robbie Diko. Actually, we still have some questions, but the panelists already answered the question directly to the Q&A feature. So maybe because of time limitation, we already reached the end of the today's seminar or webinar. I would like to read the conclusion regarding to the panelists' presentation and discussion that the current condition and future of construction industry can be described as follows. The construction industry faces many challenges amid change in the world industry, which are more digital and faces various problems due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to respond the challenges facing the construction industry by adapting the current condition and planning for the future to better suit to the new condition. Some of the ideas offered in adapting are by renovating and retrofitting buildings from Pak Robbie Diko Giuliani in order to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Several suggestions to build a more resilient industry, including the 5 areas needs to reconsider that are the building materials, construction, technology, companies, and supply chains, and also the workers from Pak TK. And digital technologies can help tackle some of poor performance problem facing construction, but only if the underlying contextual factors are recognized and addressed holistically within the supply chains. We need to reap the benefit. There is a need to rethink and transform the existing business models to take advantage the possibilities presented by emerging digital technologies. The transformation should consider realignment of firm capabilities and resources to effectively create, deliver, and capture value from the operational ecosystem. So due to time limitation, the today webinar is very interesting. We need to finish this session, and thank you very much again for all of the panelists, all the speakers, and also for you to sharing valuable new ideas and information, and thank also for the attendees who joined the webinar until now. I will give back the screen to the committee. Fatina or Pak Dibya, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dewi Rasati, for hosting such an insightful discussion. I think that just opened my eyes widely on the future of construction industry that we're going to face in the near future. All participants, we finally arrived to the end of today's webinar. Now I invite you all to open your camera and show your smile because we are going to have photo session with the speakers. Okay. While waiting, maybe for some of the people to open their camera, I have a quick announcement. First, as a reminder, the extended abstract submission deadline is still open until August 1st. So we invite you all to participate in our international conference. Second, for those who need an e-certificate, can register through the link written on the screen. And then we also invite you all to join in our third webinar series on August 21st. And the last, for further information about Habitechno 5, please visit our website, Habitechno ID. Okay, I think everyone is ready. Mr. Adit, would you please direct the photo session? Or
Oke, saya bisa, Bu Fatina.
Okay, please.
Everyone, open your video and I will take pictures. Okay, starting from the first.
Budin, Bu Yat, thank you very much. Still here with us.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Second page. 1, 2, 3. Last page, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Dimya.
Thank you, Pak Tike, Pak Robbie.
Thank you Pak Tike, Pak
Thank you.
RS, Pak RS,
Thank you, Pak
For your
Tike,
enthusiasm.
Robbie
Ibu-
Sutanto. Thank you,
Bu
Pak
Sri,
Robbie.
terima kasih Bu
Iko.
Sri Mariati.
Thank you, Bu Dewi. Thank you, Bu Sri. Terima
Yuk,
kasih banyak, Bu
Dari
Sri.
Pinang.
Thank you, everyone.
See you
Thank
Tike,
you,
see you
everyone.
RS.
Webinar series. Goodbye.
Bye.
Jangan lupa ya ngirim